Jake didn't realize the moment his life split into before and after would begin with a single envelope taped to his apartment door. No knock, no warning, just his name, written in red marker, underlined twice, like someone wanted to stab the message into his chest. He froze, because Jake already knew what it was. He had felt it coming for weeks, like a quiet storm building behind him while he kept pretending the sky was clear. Inside the envelope was a number.
How am I going
a
to meet
number
up?
he'd been avoiding. A number that decided everything. But before he opened it, Jake did what he always did. He sat on the floor, back against the door, heart punching through his ribs. He wasn't afraid of debt, or bills, or late fees. He was afraid of what the number meant about him. That he was failing. That he wasn't responsible enough. That he wasn't a real man who had his life together. And then, for the first time, Jake said something out loud he had never admitted to anyone. Why am I more ashamed of money than anything else in my life? That single question triggered the moment everything began to unravel. Because when he finally tore the envelope open, when he finally saw the number inside, Jake discovered a truth so uncomfortable it forced him into the most important financial lesson of his entire life. Lesson 1. Your fear of money is rarely about money, it's about identity. That number in the envelope? It wasn't what he expected. It was worse. Jake stared at the number on the paper again, hoping it would magically change. Didn't. $27. $27 left after bills, after minimum payments, after pretending everything was fine. For a moment, Jake couldn't breathe. He'd always assumed his problem was not earning enough. But now, with the truth sitting in his hand like a brick, he realized something he'd never admitted out loud. He was terrified of looking at his money.
Everything's going to be
He avoided checking
okay.
balances, avoided opening emails, even avoided conversations that hinted at responsibility. And now all that avoidance had compressed into one tiny number. Jake dropped into his chair. His mind raced. The shame wasn't about being broke. It was about feeling out of control. About wondering how many smart decisions he could have made if he wasn't running from his own numbers. That's when something clicked. He couldn't change the $27 today, but he could change how he faced it. He opened his notebook, hands still shaking, and wrote the sentence that would become his turning point. Lesson 2. Avoidance keeps you broke. Awareness is the first step to power. Jake circled it twice. For the first time in years, he wasn't running. He was looking his situation in the eye. And that tiny shift, it set off a chain reaction he never saw coming. If you're following Jake's journey, hit subscribe. New chapters are just getting started. Jake didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, the same number flashed behind his eyelids. The number that proved his money was slipping through his fingers faster than he could earn it. So before sunrise, he grabbed his notebook, his phone, and the half-eaten chips from yesterday, and sat at the edge of his bed. He needed answers. First, he opened his bank app. Then he opened his credit card app. Then a budgeting app he downloaded months ago but never used. 3 screens, 3 truths, and 1 gut punch. Jake wasn't overspending on big things. He was bleeding from tiny, invisible leaks. $4.99 subscriptions, $7 snacks, $15 quick deliveries, a $9 game upgrade he forgot he even bought. None of these felt dangerous alone, but combined, they were quietly draining hundreds every month. He felt stupid. He felt exposed. But strangely, he also felt something new: clarity. He remembered something his grandfather used to say: "A small hole will sink a big ship if you ignore it long enough." So Jake circled every tiny expense, rewrote them on a new page, and whispered something that surprised even him. Lesson 3. Your financial life doesn't collapse from one big mistake. It collapses from small habits you allow. And just when he thought he had uncovered everything, his phone buzzed. A notification popped up. A charge he definitely never made. And it wasn't small this time. Jake didn't sleep that night. He lay awake replaying the convenience store breakdown, the lottery ticket, the whirlpool of fear disguised as hope. By morning, the city felt quieter, or maybe it was just Jake, finally hearing his own thoughts. He opened his window. Cold air rushed in. For the first time in months, he wasn't running from the number in the envelope. He was ready to face it. But before he looked at the debt again, he did something unusual. He sat at his kitchen table, took a notebook, and wrote one sentence at the top of the page. "What does my anxiety want me to know?" The answer surprised him. Anxiety wasn't punishing him. It was protecting him.
Everything's
Badly,
going to be okay.
Loudly, but still protecting. He feared that if Jake ignored the problem again, it would swallow him whole. Seeing anxiety as a message instead of a monster
need to cut
changed the tone
expenses.
instantly. The shaking in his hands faded. The heaviness in his chest softened. Jake took a deliberate breath and whispered, "Okay, let's do this together." That became lesson 4. When you stop fighting anxiety and start listening to it, it loses its power over you. Jake reopened the envelope, this time without feeling like his breath was being stolen from him. But what he found inside now, that changed everything. Jake didn't sleep that night, not because of fear this time, but because of clarity. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from the truth. His spending wasn't reckless. His income wasn't the problem. The real issue had been the fog of shame keeping him from actually looking at his numbers. And with the fog gone, he could finally see patterns he'd never noticed.
I
At
agree, but let's
2:17
prioritize the
a.m.,
credit card payments first.
Jake opened his notebook again. He wrote one sentence at the top of a clean page. "If I don't control the flow will control me." Then he did something he'd never done before. He mapped out his entire month, not just budgets and bills, but energy. The moments he spiraled, the moments he felt hopeful, the moments he avoided opening emails. There it was, the emotional cycle tied to his money. Not random, predictable. Lesson 5. Money decisions make sense when you understand your emotional patterns. Jake circled the sentence 3 times. He wasn't weak. He wasn't irresponsible. He simply never had a map for navigating the emotional side of money. Now he did. And just when he thought he'd uncovered everything, a single late-night message from someone unexpected popped up on his screen. A message that would reshape everything he thought he knew about the $27 moment. Jake didn't sleep that night. Not because he was anxious, he'd felt that 1,000 times before, but because something new was happening. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from his money. He was meeting it head-on. By morning, he had a plan taped above his desk. 3 columns titled Essential, Optional, and Emotional. Every dollar he spent had to fit into one of them. It was the first system that didn't feel like punishment, it felt like clarity. But when he sat down to track his spending for the first full week, he froze again. The emotional column stretched longer than the others combined. Late-night food orders, stress-buying gadgets, impulse upgrades he forgot he even made. Old shame tried to claw its way back in. But Jake caught himself and did something he had never done before. He said out loud, "This isn't failure, this is data." That shift, those 4 words, became lesson 6. Treat every financial mistake as information, not identity. And with that, the numbers stopped feeling like accusations. They became coordinates, signals, clues pointing toward a version of Jake he had never believed could exist. But as he organized the last row of expenses, one transaction made him stop cold. One he hadn't made, one he couldn't explain. Jake stepped outside the bank into the cool evening air, clutching the same envelope that once made his stomach twist. But now something was different. He wasn't running from numbers anymore. He wasn't hiding from bills, balances, or the quiet shame that had lived in his chest for years. He walked to his car, sat inside, and opened his budgeting notebook. Something he never thought he'd ever own, let alone use. Page after page showed the truth. Small wins stacked on small wins. A debt he once feared looking at, now halfway gone. A savings account he used to pretend didn't matter, now months ahead. And that emergency fund, actually real.
We
He
need to
stared
cut
at it,
expenses.
stunned. For the first time in his life, Jake felt something he had always assumed was reserved for other people, financial calm. And that's when it hit him. Lesson 7. Money anxiety doesn't disappear when life gets easier. It disappears when you build systems that make life easier. Jake closed the notebook, smiled at his reflection, and whispered, "I'm not the same guy who opened that envelope, and you don't have to be either." If you want more stories that untangle your money fears and rebuild confidence piece by piece, hit subscribe, join the family, and let's rewrite your financial story together, starting today.